Start recording again. All right, so we were on this question. Did y'all get the answer to question four? Okay, not all of it. Okay, so I'm gonna just reiterate the last part of it. Someone said that it happens on every webinar with everyone, not just you. So I guess I'm happy about that. I don't know. I thought GoToWebinar was pretty reliable. I'm not sure why. I think there's only been one webinar that I've done that hasn't, that where that hasn't happened. So not sure if I'll be staying with them or not. Anyway, okay, so let's go to question four again. So, could we compete with Amazon? Again, basically there are certain listings or products that show, that they're sold by Amazon.com. Just because that is shown there, or just because that product is being sold by Amazon, doesn't mean that you can't compete with them. So the answer to the question could be, could we compete with them if they're sold by Amazon? The answer is yes, simply. So number five, how many optimized listings could we tolerate for a good opportunity product? On the course, it's three, but could we tolerate more if the demand and profitability are there? Yes, potentially. Honestly, I'm more of a visual person, and I can't necessarily provide a definitive answer to this question because it's very vague. So all I can say is that it's a case by case. You have to take all the other factors into account, as the questioner mentioned, demand, profitability, other factors that are there, that you take a look at. And then, of course, even if there are, more than three, let's say, optimized listings on page one, and it seems like there's a lot of competition. Again, there's a trade-off there, right? Um, Generally, with a product that is extremely high in demand, there's also a lot of competition. And generally, when there's a product that has low demand, there's also low competition. So you kind of have to find a balance there. There's kind of a sweet spot there, where you're looking for a product that has a good enough amount of demand, but it's not so in demand that there's an extreme amount of competition. So you want a product with a good amount of demand, but also a moderate amount of competition or a low level of competition. But again, if there is a product that, or a market that seems like it's very competitive, it's not like it's a deal breaker, obviously, or you have to stay away from it at all costs. No, I mean, you can look at the other factors. If it looks favorable, just the competition is the main thing, but you think that it could be manageable based on the other criteria, then definitely you can go for it. It's up to you. All right, so this was the person who submitted like 14,000 questions in one question. So I'm gonna try to go through this. I kind of just copied and pasted the email here. And I haven't really gone through it, beforehand. So I'm just going to try to address each one of these. I think some of these we may have already answered in the past, or some of them may be answered in the course, but I'll still try to, go through this as best as possible. So first, do I have to open my company name, LLC? The answer to this is no, you don't have to. You can start under your individual name, and that's perfectly fine. Under my company, I have to have brand names. Yes, that's correct. So you can have multiple brand names, whether you are, establishing an actual legal entity for your company or not. It doesn't necessarily matter. You can have multiple brand names regardless. Open Seller Central account, that's covered in the course. BSR, search through Amazon and find product. So I think actually what this person said is that, can you please tell me if I'm going about this the right way? If my logic, if my steps that I have here are correct. So I think some of these are pretty much laid out as steps, not as actual questions. So they said open Seller Central account, BSR, search through Amazon and find product, contact Alibaba seller and ask them for samples with quality sale under my company, test the sample, go to 99 Design, make eye-catching logo or brand for the product. Yeah, so it seems like let's see. So the logo or the brand can be done while you're waiting for the samples to get there. So the test the sample at home may go after, because you have some time to wait before the sample actually gets to you. So you could use that downtime to kind of make your logo. It doesn't necessarily have to be after you get the sample or you test the sample. Once you test the samples, obviously you contact whichever samples were the best for the suppliers. If you have two or three, you can negotiate and then you place an order. Um, have a doubt here how I tell them to put the UPC code on my product, where we'll get that, and when and which process do I have to acquire UPC code. That's covered at the end of module 4. Number 7, once when my product is done, how should I tell them to send FBA? That's also covered at the end of module 4. Number 8, do I have to ask Amazon to open the gate of sell yours like link by providing all Alibaba invoices? It depends if you're in a category that requires approval. So the beauty category, I think, is what you refer to down here. And some other categories in addition to the beauty category, you do need approval, and that's laid out actually on Amazon Seller Central's website. So you can pretty much get that info and exactly what you need to get approval. And in the last coaching call, I mentioned that you can go to the Amazon seller forums. That's a very good place to start to see others who may have faced this issue as well, or have faced this scenario or situation where they're trying to get approved for the beauty category or any other category you're trying to get approved for that requires approval. That's a great place to start. That's again the Amazon seller forums. But in general, to answer this question, I think yes, you are pretty much on the right track. I think that number 2 should actually be at the top. Finding a product honestly is the number 1 thing that you should be doing. You don't necessarily need to open your Seller Central account or even come up with your company name until you find your product. So that number 2 should actually be at the very top, and then number 3 should be right after that, and then the other ones can come. So the number 5 would be there, and then number 4 after number 5. Because again, like I said, you can start doing the other stuff. You can even open your Seller Central account while you're waiting for your sample to arrive and whatnot. And then everything is, it flows after that. But again, the most important thing is to find your product. That should be step 1, not to necessarily open your Seller Central account or to come up with your company name or anything like that. All right, so that is essentially all the questions that were submitted for this one. Some of them I addressed as updates at the beginning. Some of them I actually addressed as questions. So are there any live questions that you guys want me to address or not? Let me know, please, right now, based on anything that I may have mentioned in this coaching call so far, or anything else that I haven't that you have a question on. You can let me know now. Okay, also while I wait for your questions, I was going to check something in our group. There's a question posted that I wanted to also address here. Okay, there we go. All right, any questions from anybody before I address this last thing that I think is worth addressing here? I accidentally copied something else, so I lost this copy. Okay. All right, so because y'all are asleep for whatever reason, I will address this first, and then if there are any other questions after that, I'll get into those. So here, someone basically asked that what if when I'm creating my shipping plan in Amazon Seller Central, Amazon tells me that I have to send my inventory to 2 different warehouses, or even in some cases to 3 different warehouses. So what do you do in that case? Well, I answered this question in the group, and I wanted to kind of clarify it verbally here, just in case anyone needed clarification. There's not too much of a difference between shipping it to one warehouse or to multiple warehouses. The only difference is that at the end of that process, you'll have to set up, basically 2 different labels based on how many boxes they're telling you to ship to each warehouse. So for example, the example I used in my response in the group is that let's say you have a total of 10 boxes and they're telling you to essentially split the shipment equally, 5 boxes here or 5 boxes there, or in some cases they may even not make it equal, which is fine. But again, for the hypothetical situation, let's say they're saying 5 and 5, okay? It doesn't matter if the numbers are equal or not. So if they say ship 5 to here, ship 5 to there, you basically just have to go in there twice. First, you have to go to the first warehouse. You have to go in there. You have to follow the same steps that I outlined in module at the end of module 4, and generate the 5 shipping labels for those 5 boxes, which are going to the first warehouse. And then you basically go back, or it's going to take you back to the original screen. It's going to say, okay, this first shipment of 2 is now done. It's ready. And then you can go into the second one and do the exact same thing and get those next 5 shipping labels, which will have a different delivery address. They're going to have the address of the second Amazon FBA warehouse that you're going to send those boxes to. Okay, so then you send those 10. Now you'll have 2 PDFs, right? Because you had to do that twice. You'll have 2 PDFs. You basically give those 2 PDFs or send those 2 PDFs to your supplier, and they can, they can put the boxes, or they can put those shipping labels on any one of those boxes. It's completely fine as long as every one of those boxes has the same amount of units. Obviously, it doesn't matter which labels they put on which box. You may be sometimes in a situation where, let's say you have like, there was a time where I had like 500 units and they decided to put like 150 units in each box. So I had essentially 3 boxes that had 150 units each, and then I had one box that had 50 units. So in that case, you basically have to add your inventory twice or replenish your inventory twice. So the first time you do it, you say, hey, I have 450 units. I have 3 boxes with 150 each. Okay, and then set that up, and you'll have 3 PDFs generated, 3 shipping labels for those 3 boxes. And then you go back and you replenish inventory again, and you say, this time I have one box of 50 units, which is the remaining amount in this hypothetical scenario. And you have that one shipping label that's generated at the end. You send that PDF to your supplier as well. And then in that case, of course, you need to make sure that your supplier applies the correct shipping label to the correct box, because obviously the box with 50 units has its unique shipping label, whereas the other 3 boxes that have 150 units each have their own shipping labels. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense to you. So those are the kind of the couple of different scenarios you may run into. Now, what's important is that it's possible for you to change a setting in Amazon Seller Central to get Amazon to kind of force itself to ship your inventory to one warehouse. And you can change that setting. The only issue with that is that Amazon will charge you 30 cents per unit for doing that. So if you change that setting, then Amazon will automatically have it to send to one warehouse. If you tried it before and it was doing it to 2 or 3, and you want it to be sent to one, then you can do that. But again, the cost is 30 cents per unit. So that's one option, is that you can have that setting changed to ship directly to one warehouse. The second option is that you can send it to 2 different warehouses like Amazon Seller Central is asking you to, but your supplier will likely, the shipping costs will be higher than expected or higher than what was initially quoted, because now you're sending 2 different shipments to 2 different places. And of course, as we know, with how shipping works, the lower the quantity of the shipment, the smaller the shipment is, the more it will cost. Um, you know, uh, the more it will cost generally. So that's why, instead of shipping everything together at once, which will limit your cost, it will increase your cost if you're doing it separately to 2 different locations. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So essentially, what I said is you have to weigh out the costs. Is it going to cost you less if you incur the cost, the 30 cents per unit from Amazon, or is it less expensive if you simply send it to 2 warehouses and you just incur the cost of the additional cost for air shipping that your supplier will, have for that. So hopefully that makes sense. And if you've run into that situation, hopefully that's beneficial. Okay. So someone said, I found some products and was quite happy contacting suppliers, and then for some reason I decided to check them again on Amazon and found that a few of them are no longer good opportunities. How is this possible? I'm just going to ignore them. Anyway, so By no longer good opportunities, that's a bit vague. So if you want to be more specific, but I'm assuming you mean by BSR, maybe some competitors came into the market. That happens, especially now during this time of year when the playing field is kind of changing rapidly, meaning that BSRs may change dramatically, one day after the other or a week after the other. That's why you kind of have to keep an eye on it, throughout this process. So if you're searching for products and if you have, a top three or top five, you want to make sure that you're kind of keeping an eye on it almost on a daily basis to see, okay, well, how is it shifting? How is it changing? Is the market the same or not? Because like I said, or I implied in, I believe, one of the previous coaching calls or in one of the lessons, I mentioned that BSR to a certain extent is easily can be easily manipulated. Because if I, for example, give away 100 units of my product today, my BSR will jump dramatically. But then in like 3, 4, 5 days, it may go back down, almost to normal or to what it was before. So again, you want to kind of keep an eye on that. As for competition, if that's what you are referring to, then that also is kind of just coincidental. That maybe other people found that opportunity and they already were obviously going to sell in that category and they just started selling and you didn't see them before because they never existed. That may also happen, unfortunately, sometimes, and it can only take a few days or a couple of a couple of weeks for that to happen. It's just there's nothing you can't really predict that. That just kind of happens. Um, okay. Yes, I posted another message afterwards in which I mentioned the BSR interview. Sorry, you will see it as okay. Got it. Cool. Yeah. So and reviews have changed. That again, it's kind of just a coincidence if that happens at that exact time when you were looking into it. Again, the best thing to do is just to keep an eye on it, and see how it's kind of shifting in terms of its BSR, in terms of the other factors that we're looking into, in terms of the other criteria. Can you show us how to bold our statement when we write a description? So that is actually included under Module 5, under the description lesson. You'll see the template right under the video. You'll see the template, and it actually includes in a part of it kind of the bold tags. So in the description, you can use only a limited number of HTML tags. Amazon doesn't allow extensive use, and the ones that you can use that you'll mainly need, I've included in that formatting template. So go to Module 5, go to the lesson about the description, and you'll see it right under the video, that template that I shared with you, and that includes those bold tags. It's basically a B tag and anything within those brackets, essentially, or those not brackets, but those sideways triangle thingies. I don't know what they're called. Those essentially, anything between those will be become bold. And what I've only included that in one part or a couple of parts of the description. But again, you can make any words in the description bold, any part of the description bold that you want. Okay. Are there any other questions? Oh, another question that I just remembered that someone did submit, that I think I forgot to put on here, it should have been one of the updates, was that someone was like, well, how did you decide that, this was going to be the time, 4 p.m. was going to be the time? So the first 2 weeks that we did this, I put up a poll. The first week I did it, and then the second week I did it again because some people were not happy with the first time. And then the second week, it seemed like there were a lot of attendees. People liked the timing of 4 p.m. Central Time or 5 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 10 p.m. UK time. So then the third week, I didn't do a poll either. I kind of just left the time the same, and no one really had any questions. I was like, okay, well, maybe people are happy with the time that we kind of set and left. And so that's why this week, again, I kind of did the same thing. The only reason I didn't do it on Tuesday was because I was out of town this weekend, and then I didn't return until recently. So I had to push it to Wednesday. But generally, Tuesday at 5 p.m. US Eastern Time or 10 p.m. UK time is generally when our webinars will happen. because I think that most people are okay with that time. If you guys do have any concerns with that, you can email me if you have a better time, or if you would like to request maybe a poll for next week's final weekly coaching call. Let me know. Maybe we can do that for next week. Okay, that was you. Okay, perfect. So yeah, sorry about that. Again, hopefully the explanation made sense and my logic made sense. Okay, excellent. Any other questions, or concerns that you may have before we close this call? This was a relatively shorter call than the other ones, but I think we covered some of the more hot topics or concerns that you may have had. I'll wait maybe one more minute for you guys to think of any other questions you may want to ask me. If not, then we'll go ahead and end. Okay, so someone said that, it does feel like this whole process is very demanding, but the support from the group and your coaching calls do help. I really appreciate that, and I thank you for expressing that as well. I think that that is a general feeling that people have when they begin this process. Sometimes when you hear numbers, you hear results of people. Sometimes people think it's going to be a breeze in the park or a walk in the park. And obviously that's not the case. When you get into this, you kind of figure that out. It's a legitimate business. It's not a scheme or a scam. Like it's not a get rich quick scheme or anything like that. But again, the potential for this business, hopefully you've noticed that it's very massive. And if you can get a good product, if you can keep it consistent, keep taking action, overcome the obstacles, and again use the support group that you have, the other students, myself, and these coaching calls, then hopefully you can do well, and get your product up and start making money. But yeah, again, just keep it going. And again, we're here to support you throughout this entire process, so that you can keep going, inshallah. Yeah. I'm sure you never thought it was a stroll in the park, but unfortunately, or not necessarily unfortunately, but there are in fact some people who do think, or who thought initially before they got into this business, that it was going to be super easy. Like, they're going to spend 3 hours on this a week and they're going to start making six figures a month. I mean, whatever. Sometimes people have that image just based on some of the marketing, some of the hype that they hear about this business, or they may have heard in the past about this business. It's good that you didn't have that attitude going in, but sometimes people do, and they're kind of shocked and taken aback when the reality hits them. So that's what I was basing those statements off of. Any business startup, there will be stepping stones. Really, yes, I understand. I'm just joking. Sorry. Oh no, no, I was also kind of just casually saying that. I wasn't intending to. I sound serious, but I'm not. I'm a really joking person, actually. I'm a very sarcastic person as well. Um, So I apologize if that seemed a little bit serious. I'm not trying to be serious at all. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, if there's no other questions or concerns, we're going to go ahead and end. Again, I appreciate those of you who attended, and I hope this was valuable. And again, thank you for all your patience and understanding. Throughout this entire process, I know that everything's not perfect. Whether it's with the course, whether it's myself, or whether it's with the business, you have obstacles and whatnot. But like I said, keep taking action, keep it consistent. Use all the resources, the tools, the support that you have around you, to make the most of the situation, to really do the best that you can. And of course, at all times, put your trust in Allah and never forget that. That's really the most important part of all of this. What's your intention behind doing this? What's your why? That's really very, very important. That a lot of times people, when they get involved in this grind, or they get involved in starting this business, they forget what the purpose was of why they actually decided to embark on this journey. So always remind yourself of what that why is, what's the purpose you're doing this, and let that motivate you, let that push you to keep going no matter what comes in your way, inshallah. Again, I really thank you for attending. The recording of this coaching call will be up within the next couple of hours. It's actually GoToWebinar is pretty cool in how they save the videos very quickly. I'm just going to upload it to Vimeo and it'll be up in the members area within the next couple of hours, inshallah. Again, thank you. Have a great rest of the day. Have a great rest of the week, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Assalamu alaikum.